Welcome to the deep dive.
Hello.
And today, well, we're looking at something maybe a bit unusual.
Yeah.
We've got actual class notes from an English lesson.
Oh, interesting. Whose notes?
They belong to Anna Paula, Milena, and Karina. They're coworkers learning English together.
Okay, so real learners, real notes. What have we got? Vocabulary? Grammar?
Exactly. We have their vocabulary lists, some grammar points they covered, and even bits of their writing.
Right. So our mission then is to sort of unpack these notes, see what's important.
That's the plan. See what they were focusing on and maybe what you can take away from their class. Ready to dive in?
Let's do it.
Okay, first section. Vocabulary. New words.
Always the foundation, isn't it?
These are listed under current class words in the notes. Let's go through them slowly.
Okay.
Tomato.potato.script. Inconvenient.
Mm.
To build, to do, to make. Grocery shop. When, where.
Right. Basic location and time words.
Dates for years. Dates for birthdays. Plus, minus, up, minus, equals, divided by, multiplied by.
Math stuff. Useful.
To be prepared. Bricklayer. To giggle. To smile. To laugh.
Okay, quite a mix there, from food to feelings.
Yeah. Some seem pretty easy, like tomato, potato. Food items.
Sure, we all know those.
But then script. What's that about?
Well, like the words written down for a play. Or maybe a film. The dialogue.
Gotcha. And inconvenient.
Ah, that means something's, not easy, causes a bit of trouble or delay.
Okay. Then these three verbs, to build, to do, to make, they all sound active.
They are, but subtly different. You build something big, maybe like a house with materials.
Right.
You do actions like homework or chores.
Mm-hmm.
And you make something, often creating it from parts, like you make a cake or make a decision. It's about the creation.
Ah, I see. So make a cake, do homework. Big difference, really.
It is. Very important distinction to learn.
Grocery shop. Simple enough. Where you buy food.
Yep. And when for time, where for place. Essential question words.
What about dates for years versus dates for birthdays?
Well, dates for years is just the year, like 1983. But dates for birthdays includes the month and day, like December 12th. We say them differently.
Okay. And the math words plus, minus, equals, divided by, multiplied by.
Pretty standard. 2 plus 2 equals 4. Useful for, well, shopping, maybe. Bills.
Definitely. To be prepared.
Just means to be ready.
Yeah.
Same thing. Good synonym, bear to know.
And bricklayer.
That's a specific job, isn't it?
Yeah.
Someone who builds walls using bricks.
Right.
A type of construction worker.
Exactly.
Focuses on the bricks.
And then the last few are about feelings or maybe expressions. Giggle, smile, laugh.
Yeah, different degrees of showing happiness, I suppose. A giggle is small, quiet.
A smile is just the face.
Right. And a laugh is, a bigger sound, more expressive.
Okay, that covers the current class words.
Yeah.
But the notes also had past class vocabulary.
Ah, building on previous lessons. Good. What was there?
Words about containers. Bottles, cans, cartons, bags.
Useful for shopping again? Or talking about food storage? Milk in cartons, maybe soda in cans?
Right. And cooking verbs. Loads of them. Chop, toast, grate, taste, boil.
Oh, yeah. Kitchen actions like, please chop the onion.
Or can you toast the bread?
We need to grate the cheese.
She always tastes the soup. Good idea.
Ah, yes. After you boil the water. And I usually pea or olive oil. You can really hear the actions.
The lesson also seemed to focus on choosing the right word, like exercises.
Okay. Examples.
Kettle or toaster for boiling water.
Kettle. Definitely kettle.
Chops or slices onions for a salad.
Usually slices, I'd say. Thin slices or rings. Chops sounds a bit rougher.
Steak or meat at a restaurant.
Well, steak is meat, but it's a specific cut, isn't it? So you'd probably order steak.
Better than or better than yesterday's.
Oh, that's a common one. Better than THAN for comparisons.
And a cake needs to be baked or fried.
Baked. Definitely baked. Frying a whole cake sounds messy.
Huh. Okay, then steps for making pasta. The order.
Right. Sequence is important in cooking. What do they have?
Boil water.
Yeah.
Add pasta. Heat sauce. Grate cheese. Mix everything.
Sounds about right. A simple pasta dish. Order matters.
And matching kitchen tools to their jobs.
Like what?
Grater. For shredding cheese. Kettle. Heating water. Microwave. Reheating food.
Toaster for toast, obviously. Blender for smoothies, maybe.
Yep. Blender for blending ingredients. And dishwasher for cleaning dishes.
Good practical vocabulary. Tools and their functions.
More verb choices practice too. Boil the pasta. Chop the onions. Wash the vegetables.
Stir the soup. Grate the cheese. All essential cooking verbs.
And sentence completion, like better frying.
Better than frying. THAN again.
It prepared.
It was prepared. Past tense.
You needed onions.
Slicey onions, or maybe chopped, depending. Slice feels more common for just onions.
She prefers the onion, maybe for baking.
The oven.
Yes.
You can it. Pour.
Yeah, you can pour it. Makes sense for liquids.
There are even more pairs. Put salt into soup. Put spoon on table.
Prepositions with verbs. Into versus on. Important.
Mix flour. Stir sauce. Slightly different actions.
Mm-hmm. Mix is more combining things thoroughly. Stir is moving a spoon around.
Baked, then decorated. Tastier than last one.
Sequence and comparison again.
The meal needs to be prepared. She knows how to prepare.
Passive versus active infinitive. Good grammar point hidden there.
Boil on the stove. Bake in the oven.
Where the actions happen, stove top versus inside the oven.
And a few tricky word pairs from past classes too. Bowl versus ball.
Different shapes. Bowl holds soup. Ball you play with.
Cake versus talk.
Different sounds, different actions. T-A-K-E versus T-A-L-K.
Course versus curse.
Oh, very different meanings. A course of study versus the bad word or spell. C-O-U-R-S-E versus C-U-R-S-E.
And the word private, meaning not public.
Right. So lots of vocabulary building focusing on practical use and common confusions.
Seems like it. One last vocabulary bit.
Yep.
Accents. Current class accent words.
Oh, comparing accents.
Yeah, British versus American pronunciation for a few words.
Like potato.
British. Potato.
Okay.
American. Potato.
Subtle difference in the last vowel. Tomato, British. 2-MH-toe.
American. Tomato.
Again, vowel sounds mainly. And Saturday, British. Essay today.
American. Essay today. With more of an R sound.
Interesting to highlight those differences.
It is. Helps learners be aware of variations. And there were some phrases too.
Yes. Phrases like, Anna is a teenager. I am not certain, meaning I am not sure.
Good clarification. Certain equals sure.
Questions like, how many boyfriends have you had? Was Hugo's dad your first boyfriend? Well, Bob was not my first boyfriend. Are you sure?
Sounds like a specific dialogue practice, maybe. Personal questions.
Could be. Also, how much is? What was her answer? Her first answer was...
Asking for prices and information. Practical stuff.
And words about time sequence,
Oh.
before,
Standard.
and prior, meaning before, later, meaning after.
More formal alternatives, perhaps. Prior and later.
And finally, most of them, none of them.
Quantifiers. Talking about groups. So, yeah, a real mix of single words, phrases, pronunciation points.
Seems very thorough for vocabulary.
Okay, moving on from words. What about grammar? The rules.
Yes, grammar was next. Big focus on prepositions of time, specifically. En, R-N-A-T.
The classic trio. Always tricky for learners. How do they break it down?
They seem to take it step by step, thinking about when to use each one.
Good approach. So, IN.
En is used for longer periods, years, in 1983, in 2025.
Right.
Years.
Months. In September and in December.
Makes sense. Months too.
Also parts of the day.
Mostly.
In the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening.
But not at night.
Exactly.
Yeah.
At night is the exception.
Yeah.
And in for centuries. In the 18th century.
Yep.
Big chunks of time.
Okay, so IN for years, months, most parts of the day, centuries. Got it. What about ON-in?
On-in is more specific than IN, but
Okay.
less specific than AT. It's for dates. On December 12th, on May 15th.
The dates, okay?
And days of the week. On Monday, on Friday.
Days and dates.
You can even combine it on Tuesday night. See? Still the day.
So the day part is key for on, even with night.
Seems like it. And
That's
also
it.
for regular repeating days.
Yeah, fine.
On Fridays, meaning every Friday. Right. On for days and dates. So what's left for AT?
AT is for the most specific times, clock times. At 3 o'clock, AT 8.45.
Precise moments.
Yes. Also specific points in the day or week like. At the weekend,
Uh-huh.
AT sunrise, AT sunset, AT noon, AT midnight. Very specific points.
Okay, so AT for exact times and specific moments like midnight or the weekend.
That seems to be the pattern. They also noted a comparison on time versus in the end.
Oh, yeah? How so?
On time means punctual, not late, like the train arrived on time.
Right.
But in the end means finally or eventually. The opposite of at the beginning, like in the end, we decided to stay home.
So on time is about punctuality. In the end is about conclusion. Different meanings entirely, even though they use time words.
Exactly. Shows prepositions can be tricky.
Definitely. What else on grammar?
Ordinal numbers.
First, second, third.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
First, second, third are unique. Then after that, you usually just add eat, fourth, fifth, sixth. Exactly. 11th, 12th, 13th. Then 20th, 30th, 40th, 100th, 1000th. stays pretty consistent with the T.
But there are some spelling quirks, aren't there?
There are. They highlighted them. 8 becomes 8th, you drop the T.
Right. E-I-G-H-T-H.
9 becomes 9th, you drop the E. N-I-N-T-H.
Okay.
12 becomes 12. The V changes to F. T-W-E-L-F-T-H.
That's a tricky one.
And the 10s, like 20, 30, they change the Y to I before adding the 20th. T-W-E-N-T-I-E-T-H.
Good to point those out. Spelling matters.
They also showed how to say dates using those ordinal numbers.
Combining numbers and months. How?
Well, for 10th March 2009, you could say it the British way, the 10th of March 2009.
Okay, the 10th of March.
Or the American way, March the 10th, 2009.
March the 10th. Slight difference in order and using of?
Yeah, both are correct, just different styles.
Good to know. And saying years.
Cover that too. 1900 is 1900.
Simple enough.
1904 can be 1904, or more informally maybe, 1904.
Using O for the 0. Common.
1999 is 1999. Just say the two pairs of numbers.
Right. That's the usual way for the later 20th century.
And years after 2000, like 2005, are usually 2005.
Okay. Clear rules for years. What else?
Fractions. Just a quick mention, like a quarter is 1/4 or sometimes 1/4.
Quarter is common. Yeah.
And or is 2/3. Adding the or did sound again.
Talking about parts of a whole. Useful.
Then they moved into verb tenses, starting with the simple past of to be.
Was and were.
Exactly. I was, you were, he, she, it was, we were, they were. Just the basic past forms.
Essential. Can't talk about the past without them. And then...
Past continuous.
The ing form in the past. What did they say about it?
Described it as an action happening over a period of time in the past. The structure, subject plus was or were, plus the main verb with ing.
Okay. Subject plus was where plus verbing. Simple formula. Examples.
Sure. I was studying when the phone rang.
Okay. Studying was in progress. Phone interrupted. Classic use case.
She was running when it started to rain. Same idea.
Running was happening. Rain started.
They were playing football all afternoon.
That shows duration. The action continued for a period.
Right. So the notes summarize the uses. Action at a specific past time.
Like, at 8 o'clock last night, I was watching TV.
Exactly. Or an action in progress when another shorter action happened.
The when examples. He was eating dinner when the doorbell rang.
Yep. And also for two actions happening at the same time in the past.
Using while. Like,
Yep.
While I was reading, she was writing.
That's the one. Two parallel ongoing actions.
Seems like a good overview of the past continuous. Do they have more examples from the students, maybe?
They did, linked to names. Anna Paula was skating when it started to snow.
Okay.
We were doing exercises when the coach arrived. He was improving his skills all day long.
Duration again.
Nguyen wrote, I was swimming when I noticed the fish.
Interruption.
They were organizing a volleyball game when the rain started. She was playing football during the break.
All good examples. You see the was where and the verbing clearly. Reinforces the pattern.
Yeah, seemed like a solid grammar session covering time prepositions, numbers, and those two past tenses.
Okay, so vocabulary and grammar covered. What about the writing part?
Right. There were two writing activities mentioned in the notes.
What were they asked to do?
The first one was titled, Who Are You When No One's Watching?
Ooh, interesting prompt.
Yeah.
Kind of personal.
Yeah. The idea was to describe your personality, your habits, likes, dislikes, you know, the little things that make you you, especially when you're alone or relaxed.
That's quite revealing. What did the notes say about the students' work?
Well, it mentions Nguyen, Anna Paula, Karina, and Elena all submitted first drafts.
Okay.
But we don't actually see what they wrote. Then it says they got teacher corrections and there were second drafts.
Also not included.
Nope. And then space for final versions. The teacher apparently gave something called enhancement insights.
Enhancement insights. Sounds a bit formal. But we don't know what those insights were either.
No idea. So we have the task, but not the actual writing or feedback.
Well, we can imagine what they might have written based on the prompt.
True. Like for Anna Paula, maybe she admitted she, I don't know, practices dance moves in front of the mirror when alone.
Could be. Or maybe she hates really loud restaurants.
Oh, sure.
Prefers quiet evenings.
Or always reads a few pages of a book before sleeping, no matter how tired she is. Little habits like that.
Right. For Milena.
Yeah.
Maybe she collects something unexpected, like vintage postcards.
Or perhaps she finds real joy in cooking complicated meals just for herself sometimes.
Yeah. Or she might dislike being rushed. Always likes to arrive 10 minutes early for everything. Her own little rules.
And Karina, what could her secret self be?
Maybe she talks to her houseplants. Gives them names.
Huh, possibly. Or really enjoys walking super early in the morning before the city wakes up.
Or maybe she secretly dislikes big parties, even if she seems outgoing. Just speculating, of course.
Of course, but it's a task designed to get them using descriptive language about themselves.
Definitely. What was the second writing task?
That one was, what were you doing during the pandemic?
Ah, a very relevant topic for recent times. A short essay.
Yes, about daily life during that period, any new things they started doing, time with family or friends or lack thereof, and maybe what they learned or how it changed them.
Another personal reflection piece. And again, just drafts mentioned.
Just Nguyen and Ana Paula listed for this one. First drafts, then space for final versions after feedback. No actual text shown.
Okay. So again, we can only guess. What might Ana Paula have written about?
Maybe she focused on working from home, the challenges and maybe unexpected benefits.
Or perhaps she started a new hobby, like baking bread like so many people did.
Could be. Or maybe she wrote about connecting more with family through video calls, even if they were far away, learning patience perhaps.
And Nguyen?
Maybe he took some online courses, tried to learn a new skill, like a language or coding.
Or maybe he wrote about the simple things, like watching movie marathons with roommates to pass the time.
Or maybe a deeper reflection, like realizing how important face-to-face connection really is.
It's likely they all had very different experiences to share. These writing tasks, even though we don't see the results, show the class was moving beyond just grammar rules.
Yeah, using English to express personal thoughts, feelings, and experiences. That's a big step.
It really is. It shows the why behind learning the vocabulary and grammar, to communicate who you are and what you've lived through.
So that brings us through the notes. We've taken a pretty deep dive, I think.
We have, into these specific class notes from Ana Paula, Milena, and Karina.
We looked at the vocabulary, current words, past words, cooking terms, tricky pairs, even a bit on accent differences.
Then the grammar focusing on those key prepositions, in, on-in, at for time, ordinal numbers, and the simple past versus past continuous.
And finally, the writing prompts, which aimed at personal expression, who are you when no one's watching, and the pandemic experience.
It gives a fascinating snapshot of an English class in action, doesn't it? Seeing how they're building the language piece by piece, step by step.
It does. And maybe for you listening, it's interesting to think about what stood out.
Yeah, maybe it was the way they broke down prepositions, or the difference between do and make, or perhaps the idea of writing about your secret self.
It might even make you look at your own notes differently. If you're learning something new, what are the key things hiding in there? What's the story your notes tell?
That's a great point. Sometimes just reviewing your own learning process can spark new insights. What connections can you make?
Worth thinking about.
Definitely.
Well, that's all the time we have for this deep dive. Until next time.
Keep exploring. Keep learning.